पृथिवी शान्तिरन्तरिक्षगं शान्तिर्द्यौः शान्तिर्दिशः शान्तिरवान्तर दिशा शान्तिरग्निः शान्तिर्वायुः शान्तिरादित्यः शान्तिश्चन्द्रमा शान्तिर्नक्षत्राणि शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिर्वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्गौः शान्तिरजा शान्तिरश्वः शान्तिः पुरुषः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिर्ब्राह्मणः शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः शान्तिर्मे Astu Shantihi. May there be peace on earth and in the sky. May there be peace in the water and in all directions. May there be peace in the plants, in the trees, and in animals. May there be peace in the hearts of all beings. May there be peace in everyone and in everything. Sarvetra Sukhinas Santu. Sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet, sarvastaratu durgani, sarvo bhadrani pashyatu, sarvas sadbuddhimapnotu, sarvas sarvatra nandatu. May all be happy and healthy. May all see what is good, and may no one experience misery. May all overcome their obstacles and acquire good tendencies. May people everywhere find joy and fulfillment. Let us now spend some time touching the center of peace and joy in our hearts. A good way to begin the practice is to withdraw the scattered energies of the mind and bring them to rest on one point. That point can be our own breathing. Let us therefore practice breathing with awareness. As we breathe in, let us visualize that our body and mind are being filled with love, strength, and compassion. And as we breathe out, let us release all the stress, anxiety, and exhaustion in the body and mind. Let us practice this way for a while. Let us now turn our attention to the region of our heart. Although God is present everywhere and in everyone, the divine presence can be felt most clearly in our own hearts. We can meditate in any way we have been taught. To remain focused, we can take the help of a short mental prayer or a mantra or a divine name. Let us now spend some time dwelling on the presence of God in our hearts. Asato ma satkamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya, avirāvirmayedhi, rudrayatte dakshinam mukham, tenamam pahi nityam. Om. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine Consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. So we begin today with the study of the Kathopanishad. It's a combination of two terms, Katha, Upanishad. So in Sanskrit, as some of you may be aware, words get joined and then there are specific rules of how the word gets, the resulting joint word gets changed. So Katha Upanishad. So it ends with a, and the beginning of the second word is u. So a plus u becomes o. So that's how it becomes Kathopanishad. Actually, it's two words, Katha and Upanishad. Not to be confused with Katha in many Indian languages. Katha means a story. Well, there is a story in this Upanishad, but this word is not Katha. It really means Katha. This is one specific branch in one of the four Vedas. So among the four Vedas, this particular Upanishad occurs in the Yajurveda. So as we have seen on earlier occasions, the Vedic literature at some point, it was originally an oral tradition. At some point, this vast Vedic wisdom was classified into four separate books. The person who has been credited for doing this was Vyasa. So that's how then we speak about the four Vedas. Out of these four, one of the Vedas is called Yajurveda. And so when this Vedic wisdom was organized, they did classification in as much system as you can bring in this very vast literature. And the Vedas are primarily divided into four parts. The first part of the Vedas is called Samhita. The second part is called Brahmana. The third part is called Aranyaka. And the fourth part is called the Upanishad. Very quickly, the first part, the Samhita, primarily consists of hymns and prayers. The second part, Brahmana, consists of the methodology of how to perform the different kind of Vedic rituals. They'll have some of the Vedic rituals are very elaborate. And most of the Vedic rituals, there were no images in those days. All of the Vedic worship was done in fire. And so they had to set up they call it Homa Kunda, Havana Kunda, where the fire would be built. So, and there were very elaborate rules. What would be the shape in which the bricks would be arranged? How many big bricks will be there? There's a very, very elaborate science. All of that was described in this second part of the Vedas. The third part, called Aranyaka, contained all of these same Vedic rituals, but done mentally. So it is a mental worship. And the fourth part, called the Upanishad, are the philosophical portions of the Vedas. So, first part, prayers and hymns. Second part, the actual method of doing the external rituals. Third part, internally, doing the same rituals. fourth part, the philosophy behind it all. These four parts were also aligned with the four primary stages of human life. So the first part, the student period, and this is as it happened in the Vedic times, when the student went to the teacher's place, the teacher taught the student the first part, Samhitas. It began with the different prayers and hymns. And the first prayer that was taught to the student was the Gayatri. That was the formal beginning of Vedic education. In addition to the prayers and hymns of the first part, the student was also taught the second part about how to do the rituals. They didn't have to do most of the rituals. The interesting thing about Vedic rituals is majority of those rituals can be done only in the second stage of life, when one is married. There are a few rituals done in the student stage, but most of the rituals are after marriage. So when the student went to the teacher's place, they were taught the prayers and hymns and just the method of doing the rituals. Then when the education was over, the student returns home and then gets married, and that's the second stage of life begins. Now at that stage, the theory of all those rituals which the student has learned, now the student begins to start practicing it. Now before the student did it, his or her parents were doing it. But by the time the student has now grown up and married, obviously the parents have also grown up and have become older. So then the parents, they hand over the rituals that they did to their children. So that's how the family traditions were passed on from one generation to the next. So when these children then start doing the rituals, parents who have become older then, parents were until then in the second stage. The children were in the first stage. The children go to the second stage. The parents go into the third stage. The third stage was called the stage, what today we might call a retirement. And so in that stage, in Sanskrit, it's called Vanaprastha. Literally means going to the forest. Not deep into the forest, but outside the busy city life. Outside the busy city life. I'm trying to put it in a language that makes better sense to us today. So many of these hermitages of the rishis and sages were out in the distant suburbs, if you like. And that's where these parents, as retirement homes tend to be nowadays, so that's where the parents retired. And they stayed in the hermitages and they continued doing the rituals that they did, but mentally. So when the teacher started following the third section of the Vedas, the children are following the second section and practicing it. And then when their children come, they are in the first section. As you can see, it's a gradual progression with each generation. And then when these children who are now doing the rituals, when their children finish their education and come, these children go to the third stage. The parents who are in the third stage then, they will go to the fourth stage. And the fourth stage was the stage of sannyasa. So the idea is this. If in all these three prior stages, of student stage, the stage of married life, and then the retired life, if one has carried out all one's duties and responsibilities as best they can, following the path of dharma, following the path of truth, honesty, unselfishness, then by that stage, one's heart will have become sufficiently purified then to be fit for that last stage called sannyasa. And at that stage then, these parents who don't even have to do this mental worship anymore, because the heart is completely purified, the purpose of worship is done, purification of the heart. It's at that stage then they start studying the Upanishads, which is thinking of this highest, exploring the deepest truths, which are the basis of our entire existence. These truths may not be so immediately clear to us unless and until our heart becomes pure. And that's why in the Vedic period they had this kind of a graded way of studying it. Now that did not mean that everyone had to go through all the 4 stages. So the Vedas make it clear, there is a section in the Vedas which says, Yadahareva virajet, tadahareva pravrajet, that at any stage in life, if one's heart has become pure, one feels that call to dedicate one's life to that highest truth, then one was allowed to skip all these first 3 stages and go straight to the last stage. Again, this was on a condition that whatever gradual evolution was expected to occur in a person's life, if either due to the impressions of past life or to one's hard work or through God's grace, whichever way, if one feels called for that life, one could renounce at any stage. Now that was the Vedic scheme of things. So this Upanishad comes in the Yajurveda. It's the last book in the Yajurveda. And after having seen this Vedic scheme of things, we have to recognize that we are now going to the study of the last book of the Yajurveda without having studied the first, second, and third. Again, it's not mandatory that we have. No one, I can guarantee you, no one, either in the past or present, has read the entire Vedas. It was not possible, not humanly possible, and not even necessary. So it's not necessary that we have to go through every section of the Vedas. But what we do have to recognize is that in order to be fit to study and benefit completely from this book, we have to have a set of preparation for this. So that is a general introduction about this Upanishad. But I would like to say something about the word Upanishad itself. Because although I described Upanishad as the last section of the Vedas, it immediately might give the impression that I am referring to specific sets of books. But a book is not the primary meaning of an Upanishad. So when I say Kathopanishad, I don't really mean the book by the name Kathopanishad. So the Upanishad primarily means knowledge. That is the meaning of the word Upanishad. It refers to knowledge. Again, going to the Sanskrit part of it, there is a Sanskrit root called Sat. There are 2 prefixes here, Upa plus Ni plus Sat. And then there is again, you don't need to remember all of this, but just to kind of give you an idea. So according to Sanskrit grammatical rules, there is a pratyaya called quip. So Upa plus Ni plus the root Sat plus the quip pratyaya. All of this put together, by the rules of Sanskrit grammar, the final resulting word will be Upanishad. Upa means approaching or going near. Ni means totally, completely. Now the root Sat in Sanskrit is used in 3 different senses, 3 different meanings. The first meaning of the word Sat, of the root Sat, is to destroy. And so here Upanishad therefore means it's a knowledge that destroys ignorance. And as we will see throughout this study, how and why the root of all problem in Vedanta is traced to ignorance. And so Upanishad is the knowledge that destroys ignorance for that seeker of truth who approaches that knowledge, who approaches the teacher. That's where the Upa comes in. and Ni and completely, totally dedicates oneself to the acquiring of that knowledge. So Upa Ni Sat. So the first meaning is it destroys ignorance. The second meaning of Sat is to attain. And again, the ni, Upa and Ni meaning remains same. So it's that knowledge by which one attains the highest truth. One attains Brahman, which is our true nature. We will see that as we continue with the study of the Upanishad, this word Upanishad gets used in all of these senses. Some places you will find it described as a knowledge that destroys ignorance. There are also verses in this Upanishad which show that this is the knowledge through which we attain the highest. So there is a sense of attainment, there is the idea of destruction. And a third meaning of this root is loosening or minimizing. So in one section of this Upanishad, the teaching is given about what is called here as Agni Vidya, the knowledge regarding fire, Agni. And the Upanishad will say that acquiring that knowledge, one attains to the highest heaven and lives there for a much longer time. Again, these are all things which are yet to come. So among the different kind of heavens one could go to, there are some heavens which are maybe just 2-star or 3-star. Good, better than hell, but not the topmost, and maybe a shorter stay there. But then there is the highest heaven where it's like the best among the available ones, and you can stay there for a longer time. And the idea is, after getting that knowledge, that Agni Vidya, not that you are getting liberated, but you are going to that highest heaven. If you're going to that highest heaven, you're going to live there for a long time and enjoying many, many more pleasures than these ordinary heavens can do. Because remember, according to Vedantic understanding, after having one's fun in heaven, one has to be reborn again. And so if you go to that highest heaven, you're going to be reborn, not so quickly. So the suffering kind of gets minimized. So that's the third way the word Upanishad gets used. Again, this is what in Shankaracharya, in his commentary, in the introduction to this, he describes and explains the significance of the word Upanishad. So this is a very brief summary about that. So let's begin. Om Ushan Havai Vajasravasaha Sarvavedasam Dadau Tasyaha Nachiketa Nama Putra Asa. Vajasravasa, desirous of heavenly rewards, gave away all his possessions at the Vishwajit sacrifice. He had a son, Nachiketa by name. Oftentimes in the Upanishad, you'll find these letters called Ha and Vai. What they are usually used is to refer to some unspecific past. Sometimes when you tell these fictional stories, you just say, oh, long, long ago it happened. We are not really referring to any specific time period because it's fictional. And so it's in that sense that it says long ago, an undetermined time. Vajasravasa. So there was this one person called Vajasrava. According to, again, rules of Sanskrit grammar, the son of Vajasrava is called Vajasravas. Oftentimes, it's a little bit like today. Sometimes we name the children. Sometimes the children are named with the same name as the father, let's say, and then we say John Jr., meaning, well, then you know. If someone says John Jr., then you know what the dad's name was, obviously. John, John or John Senior, if they both are there together, you might say. So just as we have this way of naming a child with the carryover of the name of the parent, in Sanskrit grammar also, you could do that. So a son of Vajashrava would be Vajasravas. Some of you might remember in the Gita, Arjuna is oftentimes referred to as Kaunteya. And that's because his mother's name was Kunti. So again, according to grammatical rules, the son of Kunti becomes Kaunteya. We speak about Pandavas and Kauravas. Again, those are also names derived from their ancestors. So it is that the father's name was Pandu. And so the children of Pandu became Pandava. And they all belong to the Kuru dynasty. So those belonging to the Kuru dynasty became Kauravas. So again, this is how in Sanskrit sometimes you can trace the name of the parent from the children, or the vice versa. So Vajashravasa means the son of Vajashrava. Sarva Vedasam mean all possessions Dadau gave. Now there was among the many rituals in the Vedic literature, there is one sacrifice called Vishvachit, now which requires that all of one's possessions, all of the things that one values, they have to be given away in sacrifice. They have to be given away in charity. And as a result of that charitable act, a person would then go to the highest heaven. It's interesting how today we speak about redistribution of wealth seems very socialistic, and it's not a very popular term. But we often hear people who are very wealthy sometimes saying that I must give back something to the society. Or it's not just wealth, even people who have other resources. They either feel an inner calling, or at least there is an expectation that those who have a lot must somehow share it with those who don't. Some do, many don't. But in the Vedic period, you can see that through traditions which had been passed on. So there was this idea, well, who doesn't want to go to heaven? We can have all the things that we can afford in this life, but no matter how much we have in this life, when it's time to die, well, we leave everything behind. We cannot take anything with us. Then what will be my resources after I die? Right now, I may have a lot of money. I can get whatever I want. But after I die, I cannot carry my money with me. So what will I do? And then the Vedas said, well, there's another kind of money you can have. And that's the money that is good karma. And a good karma would mean whatever you value now, distribute it among those who need it. And that act of charity will purify your heart. And then you have this good karma, and you can use that and continue your enjoyments in heaven. So this was a religious way of redistribution of the resources from those who have a lot to those who do not have as much. And so this was called a Vishvajit sacrifice. So this person, Vajashravas, who was handing over all these valuable things, was doing this sacrifice, the Vedic sacrifice. He had a son by name Nachiketa. Again, Nachi in Sanskrit, because some places you will find Nachiketas, and oftentimes we refer to him as Nachiketa. So Nachiketas is the again, I don't want to bore you with the grammar, but just to kind of clarify, the primary word will be Nachiketas, but when you decline it with the subjective, objective, locative, and all those different cases with the case endings, then it becomes Nachiketa. So again, don't worry too much about it. So he had a son whose name was Nachiketa. Verse number 2. Tamha kumaram santam dakshinasu niyamanasu shraddha avivesha so manyata. Kumaram. So this boy, Nachiketa, was a Kumara. Kumara means he was very young. It's a term that is used pre-puberty. So this boy was so young, had not even reached his puberty. So this boy, let me read the translation. When the final gifts were being brought for distribution among the priests, Nachiketa, though still a boy, was filled with Shraddha and he thought. So, just as if a big event is occurring in the family, parents are busy doing that, and the children are watching what's going on. And so here is this father who was doing this big Vedic sacrifice, and his son Nachiketa, he saw. What he saw was not very pretty, was not something that was very encouraging. So, and this particular verse, all that we are told is, just looking at all of that, Shraddha entered into his heart. Now, this is a very important word, Shraddha. It often gets translated as, of course, it's good that they have put it as Shraddha. Now, why don't we read the note given in the translation here? Shraddha. It is a mental attitude constituted primarily of sincerity of purpose, humility, reverence, and firm faith that never wavers in doubts. It is explained as astikya buddhihi, strong belief in the reality of the teachings of the scriptures. Shraddha is considered as one of the basic virtues necessary for the development of spiritual life. Without it, no spirituality can be attained. Hence, the Shruti, that is the Vedas, tells in the beginning that Nachiketas had the requisite Shraddha that enabled him to go to Yama, etc. That's how the story goes. The Shraddha often gets translated as faith, which is okay, but it's a special kind of faith. Why I say a special kind of faith? By that I mean that sometimes the word faith gets used rather lightly. Oh, I have faith, and then after 2 days, oh, my faith is wavering. I don't have any faith anymore. So the way we often use the word faith, it just seems like it can come and go. Shraddha is a special kind of faith because once it comes, it never goes. Actually, it doesn't come. So when we say something comes, it just feels like it's like floating somewhere, it's kind of entering into me, and then of course, just as it came, it can also go away. So Shraddha doesn't come in that sense. The seed of Shraddha is in the heart of all of us. So Shraddha is present in the hearts of all of us. But that Shraddha is covered. And because it is covered, we don't even know it's there. But when that cover over the Shraddha is removed, the Shraddha which is already present manifests in our heart. Now that is what happened in the case of this boy here. Shraddha manifested. Astikya buddhi, asti iti buddhi, that means it's a deep faith that tells me there is God, there is truth. And yet, it is something that I have no proof for. It's something that I have not experienced. It's not something intellectual. It's not something that I have reasoned it out. So it's not intellectual, it's not emotional, but deep down, it's a kind of what we might say, it's a kind of a gut feeling. It's like, I know it's there. Don't ask me how, but I know it's there. That's what Shraddha is. So that Shraddha entered into this boy's heart. Now, what is it that he saw that suddenly this Shraddha kind of triggered into his heart after seeing it? What he saw now described in the third verse. Pitodaka jagtatrina dukta doha nirindriyaha ananda namate lokas tan sagacchati ta dadat. So what this boy saw was dakshinasu niyamanasu, as you saw in the second verse, that the cows cows are the symbol of property in those days. The cows that were being taken for giving in charity. So this boy was standing, this big ceremony going on, and as he stands, he sees these cows that his father had arranged to give away in charity to the priests and other poor people. That will be a major part of this sacrifice, which required him to give away everything of value. And seeing that, now this word describes how were those cows really? Pitodaka jagtatrina dukta doha nirindriyaha ananda namate lokas tan sagacchati ta dadat. Joyless, verily, are those worlds to which he goes, who gives such cows that have drunk their water, eaten their hay, given their milk for the last time, and would calve no more. So this is what the boy saw, that the cows that were being given away for charity were pitodaka. They had drunk their water. What it really means is that they were so old, they were so weak, that there is very little water for them to drink remaining in this life. We know that oftentimes as we grow older, really, really old, our appetite goes down. We eat much less when we are old than when we are young. And so, think about it this way. None of us really knows how many days we are going to live. So none of us really knows how much food we are going to consume in this life. We don't know how much water we are going to drink in this life. And so what this verse is saying is that these cows, whatever water they were going to drink in that body, most of that water had already been drunk. In other words, they were going to die very soon. Very little of that water was remaining to be drunk in that body. Similarly, jagtatrina, whatever hay or grass they were going to eat, most of the grass they were going to eat in that life had already been eaten. So very little was remaining. Again, meaning they were closer to death. Dukta doha, again. So they were no more of that age where they could give milk. Again, they had become very old. Nirindriyaha, they could no more calve, no more give birth to calves. All of these signs show that they were old and really pretty much useless. The Vedic sacrifice required that he give everything of value. And what he was really doing here, his father, was giving away things that were useless. There is a belief in some Orthodox circles in India is that when you go to Benares, which is considered the holiest city, at least for the first time, you're supposed to give up something for life as a penance. And I've heard from different people the things they gave up. Many of them give up, say, oh, I'm never in my life, I'm going to eat XYZ. But they give up things that they didn't like anyway, or the things that they never ate anyway. So they're kind of following the letter of the law, but completely ignoring the spirit. So that's what this person here was doing. Yeah, I'm giving away things, I'm being charitable, but are you really giving away things of value? You are you're really giving things that you don't need. And so this son, he saw that. And then he says, Ananda namate lokaha tan sagach. Now a person who cheats in this way, apparently following the letter of the law, but not the spirit, such a person will go to a place which is joyless. It's now the word ananda, ananda means is joy. Here, is a prefix. Often is used in a negative sense. So, nanda is joy. Ananda means no joy. So remember this very subtle distinction. Ananda and ananda. So now, for instance, now many of the names that the Swamis have, it ends in Ananda. That is Ananda. So it's like, no, for instance, Tyagananda, it's the joy of letting go, not the misery of letting go. So Ananda and Ananda. Again, the word Ananda is not used that often, but here in the Upanishad we find it here. So what this little boy is very concerned. He is very young, but smart enough, intelligent enough to know that his father is cheating. Not only that his father is cheating, but this son knows that if you cheat in this way, the results are not going to be good. Because many of these Vedic rituals, if you do them properly, do them correctly, they will yield the result. Some of them, if you don't do properly, they will not yield any result. But there are others, if you don't do them properly, not only will they not yield the good result they were supposed to give, it will bring actually a bad result for cheating. And so this particular sacrifice was such that this son saw that my father is cheating, and this means that after my father dies, he's not going to a good place. And that is why the son is very concerned, and he has this Shraddha in the heart. He knows that this is real, that the consequences of this are real. What the Vedas are saying is true. Now, without that Shraddha, this feeling wouldn't have come. It's like, oh, and that's what sometimes you see, whenever we pray, or whenever we worship, or whenever we meditate, we should do it with the Shraddha in the heart, recognizing that doing our japa, doing our prayer, doing our meditation, we are connecting with God. It's the most sacred thing we could do among our day's activities. So when I sit to pray and do japa and meditate, do I sit with this full conviction that I'm now, in the next few minutes, doing something really holy, really sacred? It's not another chore to be finished. It's not like, oh, just yeah, let me just finish it in 5 minutes somehow and then rush out. Then that would show that my Shraddha has not become strong yet. So when the Shraddha becomes strong, it's not about how long I pray or meditate. It's not about the length of time. Even if I do it for 5 minutes, but during those 5 minutes, am I fully aware that I'm doing something which is most sacred? So, recognizing the deep sanctity of our spiritual practice, of everything that we do. Again, it's not just about prayer, worship, and meditation. Everything, even preparation for worship, even the work that you do as a service, when you go and help in a soup kitchen, that's sacred. That's not just social work. When you come and do work as a volunteer, when you offer service as a volunteer in the Vedanta Society, that's sacred. That work is not in any way less than the worship and meditation and japa that you do. When I'm able to do all of these things with that same conviction, again, conviction is not the right word because conviction is very intellectual, that deep awareness, then our life will change. And it can easily extend. It's not just about doing volunteer service here or doing some service there or just japa and meditation. Every work that I do, even the duties that you carry out as a son or a daughter or a husband or a wife or a father or a mother, even carrying out those duties as well as you can, that is also a very sacred thing. So Shraddha operates at every level in everything that we do. And a person in whose heart that Shraddha has entered, that person will make mistakes, but will make fewer mistakes. Or if a mistake is made, we'll become aware of it, we'll become conscious of it, and we will strive then to try to correct ourselves, make an effort to not repeat that mistake. So Shraddha is a very, very important thing in life. And that's why the Upanishad introduces the Shraddha right in the beginning. And this was the reason this Upanishad was a very favorite Upanishad of Swami Vivekananda. Oftentimes he would tell, especially young people when they approached him, read the Kathopanishad. So I'm very happy that we have begun this study. And as we go through this, we will all see how immensely helpful it is to all of us as spiritual seekers, as those who are trying to find the truth, the meaning of life. So we'll stop here. If you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, comments, feel free to ask.
I just have a comment.
Yes, wait.
It's not that important. Thank you. You time to time say that, oh, it's Sanskrit, don't worry about it. Actually, I like to listen to the root of the word, and I have another desire to learn Sanskrit while while I'm learning about Kathopanishad.
Yeah.
That's
I will try to mention some of the specifics of Sanskrit, but I don't want to transform this into a language class. Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
it comes, it's
Yeah, of course, I will do that. Yeah.
Maharaj, I couldn't really understand one thing. When you told that it is impossible for anybody to totally read Vedas, could you kindly explain why it is?
Okay. The Vedic wisdom for generations together was passed from orally, from from the parents to the children and then to the children. So even in the Vedic period, nobody knew the entire Vedas. Pretty much they knew whatever the family was passed on, that they passed on. And if they go to a teacher, they might be able to listen and learn some more of it. Plus, as Swami Vivekananda mentions in one place, if all the Vedic wisdom, if it had been written down in whatever prehistoric times, even this room is not enough to hold it. I mean, nowadays you have books called the Vedas. It's available in market. At most, you could say that they contain most of the things that have now come down to us and reached us at this point. We don't know how much of that wisdom may have been lost. Sometimes, because if it's something is being passed from orally to from one generation to the next, some of these things may have been lost as well. More importantly, in order to get that highest knowledge, it's not necessary to study the whole Vedas. It's not even necessary to study all the Upanishads. Any one Upanishad, or even any one verse of any one Upanishad, if I can study it in depth and understand its true meaning completely, I will be liberated. So, it's not necessary and it's not possible. Yeah. I can tell you a small little story. This happened sometime, I believe, in the 1940s. Mostly late 40s or early 50s. This happened in Bangalore, in India. There, a Swami who was the head of the center, his name was Swami Tyagananda. He was a great scholar, an enlightened soul. So he had the novices, monastics, young novices who was at that monastery, and he started teaching them one of the smallest of Upanishads called the Isha Upanishad or Isha Vasya Upanishad. It's very small. It's even thinner than this. So he began. So it's a group of, I don't remember. This incident was, I wasn't there. This incident was told to me by one of the elderly monks. And so he said, every morning after breakfast, this elderly Swami, then all the monastics gathered around him, these young novices, and he taught them the Isha Upanishad. But his knowledge was so profound, he had so much to share, that for the first almost 15 days or 3 weeks, they were just doing the first verse. Just imagine, they are meeting daily for an hour and they're just studying the first verse. And that class went on for about an hour, and then these young brahmacharis, they were busy doing other chores in the monastery. So when they were talking among themselves after 3 weeks, one of them said to the other, "This first verse itself has taken 3 weeks. When shall we finish this book? And if this smallest of the Upanishads will take so much time, when shall we study the other Upanishads?" So this was just a casual discussion among these youngsters. It so happened that that elderly monk happened to overhear that. He was in an adjacent room and he just overheard that. He didn't say anything. So next day, when they all gathered for the class, in that one class, he finished the entire Upanishad, just full fast-forward mode. He read the whole thing. And after finishing that, then he asked everyone, "Satisfied?" He said, "Now you can go and tell all your friends, I have finished that book." And what he meant was this: the purpose of this study is not like another one more book finished, or one more book to either for one's own satisfaction or to tell everyone, oh, that Upanishad, I finished that. I studied that long ago. And what he meant was, none of us can ever finish. The word finish, we cannot. This book will be finished only when we become enlightened. So really we cannot finish it. Secondly, as I said, it's not how much I study that's of primary importance. But what little I study, am I giving my full attention to it? Am I trying to understand it fully? And if it makes sense, I'm trying to see how I can live according to that. It's that kind of approach that we need to benefit from it. And that's the way, that's in some sense the difference between an academic study of these books and a study in a Vedanta center. Because there are definitely certain limitations that professors have, although this book has been taught in schools and colleges. But then you have a certain number of hours, certain number of classes in which you've got to finish it, and then there are certain assignments to be completed. So I'm not saying that's not important. That kind of study does have value. But this is a very different way of looking at it. So it's not about finishing a book. It's not about another one credit points in my this thing for having done it. Let's use this opportunity to study it, to learn, to grow, to clarify our understanding. And that's what we will try to do every week.
Swamiji, you mentioned that all the different four parts or four different types of things in the Vedas. I felt that the Upanishads and stories are easy to understand compared to hymns or prayers.
Mm-hmm.
So isn't it better to tell the stories at the young age than at the older age to study Upanishad?
Well, a story is kind of only a setting. The philosophy itself is quite profound, and to understand the deeper layers of meaning, we need a certain amount of clarity, which can be developed only through an intense practice of prayer and worship and meditation. So, so that's essentially it. And not every Upanishad has, this Upanishad has a very interesting story, granted. But not every Upanishad has all so many stories. And again, story, it's like this. It's not, when you to study the Gita, yeah, sure, the war is the background. But I can't say, I just love war, so I'm going to study the Gita. The Gita is not about war, but the setting is the war. So similarly, the story is interesting, but the story only provides a setting to impart a deeper teaching. But again, if you feel it benefits you, by all means, study the Upanishad. That's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A small question. It's the initial piece without knowing the background about animal sacrifice. And so here, Rajavasa is giving away the cows. But it's also sometimes, is it the Vedic ritual is to sacrifice animals to benefit the animals?
No, he is not sacrifice in the sense of slaughtering. Sacrifice in the sense of giving.
Okay.
You sacrifice what is yours by giving it to somebody else. So it's a normal meaning of sacrifice, not the technical meaning. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we'll continue this when we meet next Wednesday. Om Jananim Saratam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagatgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva pranamami muhurmuhuhu. We bow down to Ramakrishna and Sharada Devi again and again. Sunday satsang, our subject will be All the World's a Stage. Who said it?
Shakespeare?
Yeah, good, very good. Yeah, it's a line from Shakespeare. So we'll do it on Sunday at 11. And next Wednesday we'll continue with this study at 7:30. And Tuesday and Saturday our Aarti and meditation are resumed from 6 to 7. So you're welcome for all of these programs. Let's conclude with a prayer now. May the Divine Being, who is the Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, the Great Spirit of the Native Americans, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May we be granted strength, freedom, and clear understanding. May we learn to see God in our own hearts and in everyone around us. May God bless us all and fill our hearts with gratitude, grace, and love. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.